in the heart of the African village of Zawadi, where the golden sun painted every mud path and the scent of ripe mangoes lingered in the warm air. There lived a woman named Mama Quito, who had earned an infamous reputation as the stingiest woman alive. Her tiny clay and straw house, spotless yet empty of anything unnecessary, mirrored her personality, for she believed that every coin saved was a coin earned, and nothing in the world could justify spending even a small amount on comfort, pleasure, or generosity. Her days were spent tending to a humble fruit stall, where she sold only the ripest fruits and carefully counted every coin that changed hands, secretly stashing the smallest profits beneath loose floorboards. And she would walk barefoot across the village rather than spend a coin on shoes, refusing to accept help from neighbors or even partake in community feasts, claiming that doing so was wasting resources. One blazing afternoon, a stranger, weary and traveling with nothing but a torn bag slung over his shoulder, entered the village, drawing curious glances from the villagers who wondered why no one seemed to offer him aid. While Mama Quito observed from a distance with her sharp eyes, muttering to herself that spending even a single coin on a stranger would be foolish. Yet, as she watched him sleep under the shade of a giant baobab tree, a strange, unfamiliar feeling began to stir in her chest, a flicker of empathy she had never allowed herself to feel, causing her to lie awake that night, turning over the notion of charity she had long dismissed. The following morning, though she could not bring herself to spend a coin outright, Mama Quito decided to act in her own minimalistic way, carefully filling a small cup with water and slicing a piece of bread so tiny it barely seemed sufficient for a sparrow, and placing it quietly beside the shivering traveler. When he woke and smiled at her modest offering, gratitude shining in his eyes, Mama Quito felt an unfamiliar warmth in her heart, one that made her shuffle back to her house with a mix of discomfort and intrigue, realizing that even a minuscule act of kindness could stir something within her. And though she would never admit it aloud, for the first time in her life, the stingiest woman alive felt the beginnings of a change, an awkward yet undeniable curiosity about the world beyond mere saving and hoarding. And this tiny incident marked the very first thread of a story that would see Mama Quito challenged, embarrassed, and perhaps transformed in ways that no one in Zawadi herself could have imagined. The news of the village chief's daughter's wedding spread like wildfire through Zawadi, and while everyone else buzzed with excitement and prepared gifts, Mama Quito found herself in a peculiar predicament. She had been invited, and though she had not spent a coin in decades on anything frivolous, refusing an invitation would insult the chief. Yet giving a gift felt like risking her precious coins. After hours of contemplation, she decided to improvise in true Mama Quito fashion, scavenging old scraps and leftovers from her home to create what she proudly called the ultimate frugal gift, which consisted of a dried, slightly crooked gourd she had found near the river, a single handmade beaded bracelet, and a bundle of dried leaves neatly tied with string she had saved from months before, presenting it with great fanfare at the wedding, while silently calculating the exact value she had spent, which she estimated to be nearly zero. The bride's friends stared in confusion, the villagers murmured behind her back, and the chief's daughter blinked at the unusual package, unsure whether to laugh or politely hide her disappointment. But Mama Quito, utterly convinced she had achieved genius, beamed with pride and returned home, imagining the gossip she would have avoided if only others understood her brilliance. Yet, as the days passed, she noticed subtle changes. The villagers no longer avoided her, but instead began leaving small coins or gifts at her doorstep, as if challenging her stinginess. And even the traveler she had helped under the baobab tree appeared again, smiling at her antics and suggesting that perhaps generosity, even in small doses, could be its own reward. Mama Quito, however, was determined not to yield, hiding her growing curiosity about the world's strange fascination with spending, giving, and celebrating, yet secretly noting the way a child's eyes lit up at one of her carefully hoarded fruits, or how the elder women chuckled when recounting her clever avoidance of true generosity. And for the first time, she realized that her stinginess, once a shield against the chaos of the outside world, might also be the source of endless amusement, endless stories, and even a strange form of respect, a realization both exciting and terrifying. She began to experiment further, leaving tiny, mysterious gifts around the village that were almost worthless, yet caused endless speculation, watching as villagers puzzled over what she might do next. And as the sun set each evening over Zawadi, Mama Quito felt a quiet, mischievous satisfaction. She remained the stingiest woman alive, yet slowly, subtly, she had become the most talked about, most intriguing, and most oddly admired person in the village, a position she could scarcely have predicted, and one that hinted at the curious adventures and, perhaps unintended kindnesses that were waiting just beyond her careful, coin-counting gaze. One particularly rainy afternoon, when dark clouds hung low over Zawadi, and the dirt paths turned into sticky mud rivers, Mama Quito found herself facing one of the greatest challenges of her life, for her carefully preserved water jars had overflowed from the storm. Her clay roof leaked in exactly 3 stubborn spots, and the villagers were panicking as the sudden downpour threatened crops and homes. Yet Mama Quito's mind was not on the weather, but on how much it would cost her to help, calculating in precise numbers the value of every coin she might spend if she intervened. Even as she saw children splashing joyfully in puddles, chickens running for cover, and elders struggling to secure their small possessions, just as she was about to retreat to her dry corner, a sudden cry pierced the storm. One of the children had slipped into the mud and was stuck in a tiny drainage ditch, calling for help, and without thinking of coins or consequences, Mama Quito dashed through the rain, her tattered shoes squelching in the mud, and pulled the child free, mud splattering all over her carefully washed dress, leaving her soaked and shivering. Yet a strange feeling of satisfaction warmed her more than any coin ever could, and the villagers, witnessing this rare act of uncalculated generosity, stared in shock, murmuring among themselves that even the stingiest woman alive had a heart buried somewhere beneath her hoarding and cunning, while Mama Quito, brushing off the mud and grumbling about wasted effort, secretly smiled at the child's laughter, realizing that, for once, her actions had no accounting, no hidden savings, just pure, impulsive kindness. The storm continued to pour, and Mama Quito, determined to make the most of the situation without truly spending anything, devised clever little tricks to help the villagers. like tying old leaves into makeshift umbrellas, guiding animals to dry spots, and sharing portions of her carefully rationed food without revealing that she had secretly doubled the servings to help, all while maintaining her grumpy, calculating exterior, confusing everyone around her. And by the time the clouds drifted away, leaving the village glistening under the rainbow, Mama Quito found herself strangely proud, not of her savings, but of the ingenuity and small acts of mercy she had performed, which had earned her something coins never could: admiration, gratitude, and even a hint of affection from the very villagers she had long ignored. That night, as she counted her coins under candlelight, she realized, with a mixture of disbelief and secret delight, that helping did not always mean losing, that sometimes a well-timed act of cleverness or courage could make her the heroine of Zawadi without ever truly spending a single coin. And for the first time, the stingiest woman alive began to see that perhaps there was a strange joy in giving, even if it came wrapped in mud, rain, and her usual stubbornness. As the annual Zawadi Harvest Festival approached, the entire village buzzed with excitement, preparing colorful decorations, delicious feasts, and lively dances. But Mama Quito, as usual, was preoccupied not with celebration but with calculation, pondering how she could attend without spending a single coin, for even the smallest expenditure felt like a personal defeat. She devised a plan so cunning that it reflected her legendary stinginess. She would sneak into the festival carrying only the tiniest scraps of food she had hoarded over months, cleverly disguised as everyday items, and blend into the crowd unnoticed, all while secretly observing how much everyone else was spending and gossiping, calculating in her head the exact value of every meal, every gift, every decoration, and silently scoffing at their extravagance. Yet the festival proved to be more chaotic than she anticipated, with children running about, dancers twirling, and musicians striking powerful drums that echoed through the village, creating a sense of joyous madness that even Mama Quito could not resist noticing. Then came the festival contest, a game in which villagers competed to craft the most beautiful scarecrow from natural materials. And despite her initial intention to stay uninvolved, Mama Quito's competitive streak, fueled by a desire not to appear foolish, took over, leading her to construct a scarecrow from bits of old cloth, dried leaves, and a gourd she had been saving for months, ingeniously using every item she had hoarded, astonishing the villagers with her creativity, though no coin had left her pocket. And when the judges declared her the winner, a mixture of pride and irritation flashed across her face. Pride for having won without spending, irritation that she might now be expected to give her prize to someone else. To complicate matters further, the stranger she had once helped under the baobab tree appeared again, this time participating in the festival, and teasingly challenged her to a dance-off, forcing Mama Quito to leave her calculated comfort and twirl awkwardly in public, much to the amusement of the villagers, who laughed and cheered, realizing that even the stingiest woman alive had moments of unpredictability and hidden charm. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the village in shades of gold and purple, Mama Quito stood silently at the edge of the festivities, a tiny smile tugging at her lips, observing the joyous chaos she had long avoided. And she recognized something profound. Her stinginess, though extreme, had sharpened her wit, fueled her creativity, and even brought her unexpected admiration and subtle friendships. And perhaps, just perhaps, a life that balanced saving coins with occasional clever acts of participation and kindness could be more fulfilling than hoarding alone. A thought so alien that she quickly tucked it away like one of her precious coins. Yet it lingered quietly, hinting at the adventures, laughter, and lessons still waiting for the stingiest woman alive in the village of Zawadi. One bright morning, as the village of Zawadi awoke to the chirping of birds and the warm glow of sunlight reflecting off the clay rooftops, Mama Quito encountered a situation that would test even her legendary stinginess. A traveling merchant arrived carrying a single golden coin, claiming it was enchanted and could grant the owner a chance to multiply their wealth, but only if they were willing to share it in some way. And instantly, Mama Quito's mind raced with possibilities and fears, calculating exactly how many coins she could gain while spending as little as possible. Yet the merchant insisted that the magic would only work if the coin was given away, even partially, to someone in need, a concept so alien to Mama Quito that she nearly choked on her own suspicion. She spent the entire day hiding the coin, weighing every option should she give it to the stranger she had once helped, to the children who loved her fruits, or perhaps leave it somewhere mysterious and watch the chaos unfold while the villagers, unaware of the treasure in her hands, carried on with daily chores, occasionally glancing at her with curiosity. And by evening the merchant returned, demanding an answer, and Mama Quito, faced with a choice that could alter not only her wealth but her reputation, finally decided to place the coin inside the tiny gourd she had once used to win the harvest festival, leaving it at the village well with a small note suggesting it be shared among those who truly needed it. The next morning, the villagers discovered the golden coin and, in true Zawadi fashion, divided it among the elders, children, and even Mama Quito herself, who received just enough to replace her leaky roof tiles. But more importantly, the act sparked a celebration unlike any other, filled with laughter, songs, and a newfound respect for the clever, mischievous, and unexpectedly generous woman they had long known as the stingiest alive. As she sat quietly, counting her newly earned coins and reflecting on the whirlwind of events, the rescued child in the rain, the clever scarecrow, the tiny gifts at the wedding, and now the golden coin, Mama Quito realized something remarkable. Stinginess had shaped her life, sharpened her mind, and brought her recognition. But generosity, even small and calculated, created connections, joy, and stories that no coin could buy. And though she would always be careful with her money, she found herself smiling at the thought that sometimes giving away even a little could bring far more than hoarding ever would. A lesson she tucked into her heart alongside her coins, knowing that from this day forward, the stingiest woman alive would still save, plan, and calculate, but she would also share, laugh, and occasionally indulge in the strange, unpredictable magic of giving. And in that balance, Mama Quito discovered the true wealth of life in Zawadi, richer in laughter, respect, and human connection than all the coins in her hidden floorboard.